Hello and welcome to the Stephanie Herman Show. Today's show is going to be about my past as a ballerina, and we will be talking about toe shoes and touring. It all started a long time ago when I pointed my way through life at birth, and the doctor said to my mother, he has never seen a baby with such insteps and arches, because usually babies are born without an arch. I was destined to be a ballerina. So I wanted to share with you some details and depths about toe shoes. A toe shoe is something that you have to work really hard to graduate to get to wear. You have to wear ballet slippers for many years, and you have to work on your feet. And George Balanchine, who I've worked with, always said that the feet were part of your soul, and the feet work like hands. So he would always have us do millions of tendus and work the instep like it was feet. And so by the time you get to put on these magic shoes, point shoes that have a box in it and a shank that support all of your weight. There are hundreds of different toe shoes and designers, Capezio, Freed's, and when you first buy your first shoe, you just don't know what shoe you should buy, and you have to go to the store, Capezio's, and you try on all these different point shoes, and the people that work there try to help you to figure out which is the right point shoe for you. Now, once you get the point shoe, it doesn't come with ribbons. You buy the ribbons, you buy the elastic, and then you have to sew it on. So the way I used to sew my toe shoes was you had to put your foot in the shoe, and you had to figure out exactly where your arch was. And then you had to make a pencil mark right where that arch was, because you needed the support right where the arch is. And then you had to sew it. But while you're sewing it, right over here, you can't sew it too much, because that attaches to the string that makes it tighter. And if you sew it, then it can't get tight. So you have to be very careful, and you sew that. Then you have the heel part. And the heel part has to stay on, and the only way it could stay on is by sewing the elastic. Now, when you start out, you've got to measure the elastic on your ankle, and you have to measure how long it is. Trust me, I have cut it too short, and I had to re-sew it again because it's way too tight or it's too loose. And then you have to sew it in the right position, and if you don't do it in the right position, you got to start all over again. Now, if you have insteps that are very high, then you want to sew a little extra elastic. I mean, let me tell you, this could take hours. So that elastic has to go, and again, you have to measure it, and you put the pencil mark, and that goes right where you need it. So the shank is this part here. And because my feet were I had a big instep and arch, I needed usually a double shank. But if I got a double shank, sometimes in the very beginning I would get a steel shank. So it wouldn't move. So what you have to do is you have to bend it, but you can't bend it right where the arch is. You have to kind of bend it right by the heel so that it still supports your arch, but it still shows a heel. So you don't want the line of a ballerina to be straight like that. You want to show the actual beauty of the foot, so it bends just at the right point. If you want to wear these toe shoes for performance, you can't just say, oh good, I've got a pair of toe shoes and now I can wear it for performance. You have to wear these shoes for a ballet bar, maybe wear it for the center, and then there's a point where the toe shoes just feel like they're perfect. That's when you have to take those toe shoes off. And then you have to write down on the back of the toe shoe what performance you want to wear these for. So usually I would have maybe 3 or 4 pairs of pointe shoes for each ballet. So it would say maybe Agon, great. And then there's Agon, maybe. And there's Agon, almost. So right before a performance, I would get into the toe shoes and, you know, I would feel them out. I would do little jumps, and I would do échappés, and I'd do points, and I'd run around and make sure that they felt good. And if it sounded too hard, this is what I would do. You'd bang it on the floor till you didn't get that sound, so that when you walk, there'd be no noise. And when you bourrée, it would be no noise. And what I'd like to do is share with you how I danced my way through touring around the world. My first tour was in Paris, and I was only 20 years old, and I was with Le Grand Théâtre de Genève, which was a dance company of 40 dancers. And we took a plane from Switzerland to Paris. Now, a 20-year-old from America going to the magical land of Paris was just unbelievable. And we arrived in Paris. We went out to lunch, and the food in Paris is so delightful and such a different culture. It was amazing to be 20 years old and in Paris. But life goes on, and we had to do our performance, so we had to get to the studio, and we had to do our class. After class, we'd go on stage, and then on stage, you know, all around the world, all the stages are very different. And in Paris, the stage was flat. Of course, Paris Opera, they call it raked because it was diagonal, and that's very hard to dance on. But this was flat, but then the audience was raked. So it made you feel like the audience was in your face, and you have to always get used to where your audience is or where you are on stage compared to the audience. So here we are in Paris, and a third of our company was American. So the American consulate decided to give us a cocktail party. And it was very exciting because we had diplomats and all these dignitaries from Paris at this party, and here I am 20 years old, and it was just very exciting. And they're passing hors d'oeuvres and caviar and champagne. So I was 20 and living in Paris. Well, I was living in America, and now I'm in Paris and haven't really experienced drinking. And so I took my first glass of champagne, and it was like, that was really good, but I better not drink anymore because we're going to perform that night. Well, after the first glass of champagne, you're feeling like, well, I could do anything I want, and I know, you know, I'm a 20-year-old, I know what I'm doing here, and another glass, and everybody's having so much fun with another glass, 3 glasses, and then all of a sudden it's 6 o'clock and we have to get to the studio, and we have to put on our makeup and put on our tiaras and get ready and take another class. And there we are taking another class, and it was the first time that I've experienced having to dance a little intoxicated, and it was awful. So I'm going to throw my toe shoes away and show you the serenade, the ballet that we had to perform that night, which is, we had these kind of like a blue leotard attached to like a tulle skirt down to here, and it was 20 dancers that would be on stage, and serenade was just very visually beautiful. And if you raised your leg, you know, the skirt would lift up and it would slowly go down. And there we are. Half of us had the champagne. And we start serenade. And serenade starts where everybody's standing like this. And we're supposed to be covering the moon with our hand. And that moon kept on moving. And it was so hard to go through this choreography. And it took so much discipline for me not to want to just get up and leave. And I was doing well till the back bend. And then I had to start the ballet. Well, the show must go on, and it did. And we all succeeded successfully. And I've never drunk again since then on stage. So let me take you to a tour through Spain. Our company, went through all of Spain in about a month, and there was an impresario who took us throughout Spain. Now, an impresario is a person who financially is like an angel and helps out in an artistic endeavor. So this impresario, I think, was watching his nickels and dimes, because he allowed us to tour through Spain, which is very big, in a school bus. And that did not make our company very happy. So we did go to Madrid, which was absolutely wonderful. And we performed indoors at a beautiful theater, and we went out to fabulous restaurants, and it was great. I think we stayed in Madrid about 5 days, and then we got on this school bus and traveled for hours. And, you know, dancers, the legs, they have to be elongated. They can't be cramped in a small little school bus. And so we would have our legs over the chairs and our arms sprawled out. And we made the best of it. And our company was a great, solid company with a lot of friends. And then we went to Malaga, and in Malaga was the first time I ever saw a black swan. And then we went to the Festival of Granada, where we performed at the Alhambra. And the Alhambra was like this fortress with its existence, which dated back to the 9th century. And in the 13th century, it became the residence of royalty. And then they turned it into a place where there were festivities and festivals combining history and culture. And I felt like I was becoming a part of this history and culture. And it was just amazing to be in this place dating back since the 9th century. Now, Spain lives by night. It's a very hot place, and because it's so hot in the summer, it's around 90 to 110 degrees. When we performed, we'd perform starting at 10 p.m. at night to thousands of people at this gorgeous, beautiful place. And because it was so hot, we would have to start our classes at 9 a.m. in the morning, and after a long night performance at 12 o'clock or 12:30 it would end. Then we would have to go out to eat, and by the time we went to sleep and sewed our point shoes, gosh, I think it was maybe 2 or 3 in the morning. And also after a performance, you're so wound up that you just can't sleep. So there it is, 9 a.m. in the morning, and all the guys are wearing shorts, and some girls are wearing bikinis because it's so hot, and we're out there outside, and we're looking at the beautiful cypress trees that were on the sides of the audience that were 50 feet high, in the gardens. And it was such a wonderful, fun, relaxed feeling with this sense of family, because we're touring all through Spain together for a whole month. And it was a time when you could really feel relaxed because you didn't have the pressure yet. And then you do your rehearsal, and that's when you get the kinks out. So like in Agon, you know, I had to go downstage, turn, 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 downstage, turn, 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 downstage, turn, 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 step, chung, chung, kick, down, and turn, chung, 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 hold. So you always had to practice these things to get the kinks out. And then we would rehearse till, I think, 1 o'clock, and then we'd go out to lunch. And of course, back to that gorgeous, yummy food. And since performance didn't start till 10 o'clock, that meant 8 o'clock we'd have to be in the theater. So 8 o'clock comes, we put the tights on, and you put your makeup on, and you have the leisure, you're a little nervous, and you have all your candy bars or all your water by your side, and you set up all the toe shoes, and by now you know I have about 10 pairs of toe shoes, and each one has a name underneath for what I'm supposed to do. And then you have to go on for your warm-up. Warm-up is on stage because they don't allow the audience in yet till about 9:30, and it's 9 o'clock, and we're taking our bar. And at bar, everybody's wearing sweatpants. Have you ever seen sweatpants? They're made of plastic, and they're wide. And what it does is it helps you warm up your muscles. Because as a ballerina, your brain has to figure out how to operate every little single muscle in your body, which means that you have to warm up every single muscle in your body in order to control it. And so sweatpants, sweaters, gloves, special booties on your feet to keep your feet warm, to get everything warm. And then once you feel like you're warm, then you have to get the kinks out and practice, or practice with a partner and figure out, you know, which steps are not working for you and what you need to practice. And then by 10 p.m., the show goes on. So there we are in beautiful Alhambra, Granada Festival, and we do the first ballet, Serenade again, and then the second ballet, Agon, where we're wearing leotard, black tights, put on my favorite toe shoes. I do my turns down, partner, bow. The third ballet, for temperaments, again, the leotard and tights, because Balanchine really liked to show lines like a sculpture. So for temperaments, I had an argument with my partner, and we were really upset with each other. And I had to look at him like he was my lover. And I could hardly look at him because I was so angry at him. And he was angry at me. So we started out facing each other, our backs to the audience, and I'm not even looking at him. And he's not even looking at me. I have to slowly slide my leg down, and as I slide my arms and leg down, he grabs me under my armpits so I could slide all the way down. And then I lift my leg up, and I face out. And he puts his arms around me again. I slide my leg out, and I lift my leg up, and I face him again. And I don't look at him because I'm very angry at him. I slide my leg out, and he puts his arm right under my armpits, and the sound of the air under my armpit just made both of us giggle. And there we were, giggling and smiling at each other, and the rest of the show turned out to be fabulous because we looked very connected at that time. So Western Symphony was the last ballet, and Western Symphony is really a fun ballet. It's Western, and we're wearing these beautiful tutus that make us look like saloon girls, and the guys are standing there with cowboy hats, and you actually have the picture of a saloon in the background, you know, and they're chewing gum and very much like cowboy. And we had these cute little hats with little feathers, and it's such a fun way to end the show. And we're doing this, and we're doing our dance, and then we go off, and then the second act comes of Western Symphony, and all of a sudden Glenda falls. Like, oh my God, is Glenda okay? Glenda's fine. And then Debbie falls, and then Jonas falls, and then Sally falls, and then Anika falls, and then it's like, why is everybody falling? And the thing was, in summer in Spain, the dew and the moisture in the air started coming and dropping like puddles. And the rest of the ballet was like dancing around the puddles and trying not to slip, and who's next? But anyway, the show must go on, and there are fabulous stories that just are amazing for a dancer on tour. And then I'm going to take you on another place on our tour, which is Greece. Athens, Greece, again, history that the Parthenon, and beauty beyond belief, and you feel like you're in a time machine, and you've just really gone back into time, and whoosh, there you are. Or Star Trek, you beam me down, Scotty, and there you are, like, wow, in such history. And this was, again, Dancing by Night, which is, you know, Greece. And everybody, during the day, we'd do our rehearsals, and everybody felt so much together. And we had Rudolf Nureyev on that trip with us. And again, it was so magical having Rudolf Nureyev on that trip. And that trip at the Parthenon, we performed Agon, which actually was a role that I was famous for because it had a lot of lifting of the legs and a little bit of gymnastic movements. So I would have to, you know, really get my leg very high, and at that time, and I'd be grabbing my foot and lifting my leg up high, and it was very slow and sensual. And Agon was the role that Rudolf Nureyev danced the pas de trois, and I danced the pas de deux, and it was just magical. Being there in history, making history, and having Nureyev there. And we also performed Manfred, which is a ballet that he choreographed. And the Greek food was just amazing. And being a ballerina is a lot of hard work. And being being a principal ballerina is extra hard because there's a lot of responsibility laying on your, you know, to have to do things that you may not be ready for, and to go out there if your toes are killing you or if you have blisters. And the show must go on. And it takes a lot of discipline, passion, and drive. And if you have a daughter that wants to be a ballerina, might I suggest to really make sure she loves it, or make sure he loves it. And if the child has the passion, never stop a child from dancing. Because I think dancing is a part of life, and everybody, there's a dancer in everybody.